Special thanks to our sponsor this episode, the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. You can find out more at bataviachamber.org.
All right, so we're here at 12 South Water Street in downtown Batavia at Fernando's Street Kitchen. Over the years, it came to the point where, I started out sharing a kitchen before. It got to the point where we've grew into 4 trailers and 1 small food truck. So we have 5 vehicles out now. We kind of outgrew the space that we were in before.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Area Code Batavia, a podcast about what it means to belong in Batavia, Illinois. I'm your host, Richard Clark. Each episode this season, I'm talking to downtown business owners about why they do what they do and what it means to belong in Batavia, Illinois. Even if you haven't been to Fernando's physical location, you've probably seen them around. Fernando Martinez is everywhere. He spends most of his time running his business all over town. And even during COVID, when many of us were stuck at home, Fernando was determined to get out there.
What we did is start setting up in people's neighborhoods. So we kind of create a whole kind of neighborhood block party kind of thing. So we drive to your neighborhood. We ask you just to let your neighbors know, next to each other, one's behind you, one's in front of you. Let everybody know, hey, Fernando's Street Kitchen is going to be here with their truck on this night from 5 to 8, whatever. Everybody come out, grab some food, say hi to your neighbors. And I think that really went big during COVID.
It was this tendency of his to get out there and move around to different places that made me wonder, how does Fernando manage to feel a sense of belonging when he's always moving from place to place? At least one answer to that question lies in the community he's made at his home base.
Getting us in here, working with us, and making this happen.
Yeah.
Over the past, we've been here almost 2 years now, we've actually added a couple other small business owners to our location as well. So now we've almost become like Fernando's community kitchen.
Right.
So even like today we have Bulldog Nutrition that's here on days that we're closed. We have Damo Barbecue that comes in on other nights that uses the kitchen space as well. Mm-hmm. I've got a couple other small businesses that have reached out to me about possibly, having them join our location as well. So
one thing that's cool about Batavia is the sort of business collaboration innovation that seems to be happening here. Yeah. Starting with the boardwalk shops, it feels like. And then it does feel like this space right here was one of the first in what feels like a trend, which is like a few different small businesses going in together on a storefront in some ways.
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, just overall, so many small businesses here downtown that we all try to help each other, collaborate, share each other's social media as much as possible. Again, because of COVID, so many small businesses did close.
Yeah.
And I think it came to the point now where all of us have to stick together to make sure we continue to survive.
Yeah.
So we kind of experimented that. We had another couple that was doing beignets here on a Sunday afternoon.
Nice. Yeah.
So it kind of helps these small businesses get a feel for what it would be like having their own storefront without having to take on the whole responsibility of it financially or even, the space-wise itself. At the same time, it helps me as well,
I feel like the natural tendency of not just business owners, but people in general, is to gravitate towards overthinking about competition, obsessing about competition. Yeah. I'm curious if you were ever in a place where that was your sort of natural, especially around COVID, where, like you said, I think you said the phrase, like, the only thing we could do to survive was to band together, which is not a natural response, I think, to sort of scarcity, right? To the feeling of like, oh, we don't have much to go around. There are not a lot of customers anymore. Yeah. The natural response is not like, let's get all of the restaurants together and to work together. So were you ever in a place where that wasn't the natural response for you?
That's always been in the back of my mind. But at the same time, going in this industry, I always knew I always had to stand above and beyond of what every other competitor out there was doing.
Sure.
Even now here in Batavia, there's 7 Mexican restaurants here in town.
Yep.
New one just opened up on Randall Road. So I was like, okay, well, yes, it's competition, but not really competition. I think it's just another variety.
Okay, yeah.
There's things that I do specifically that you can only find here.
Yeah.
There's things that they do and that they offer. So competition-wise, when I first hear it, pops in my mind, but then I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
there's plenty for everyone out there. Again, if they can try to do what I'm doing, great, and if they can do it, but then that means I got to step it up a notch then.
What is your initial gut reaction when you hear about a new Mexican restaurant coming to Batavia?
Now it's to the point where I'm like, really, does Batavia need another Mexican restaurant? But I think that's one of the benefits of my location, our business that we have here. We're more mobile.
Okay.
So we don't have the full 7 days a week, full dine-in, full bar, full kitchen menu. We try to offer more of the catering aspect of it, and again, being more mobile. A lot of the restaurants can't do what we do. We have our trailers going out serving 200, 300, 400 people out in the parking lot.
Right.
Last summer we did a little over 900 people for Aldi Corporation. So it's one of the things that the restaurants, that's one business.
Yeah.
Catering and food truck is a totally different beast.
Yeah, awesome.
And then even now there's been so many new vendors that have come out that wanting to do food trucks or food trailers. And I've had a few of them reach out to me, and I'm like, pause for a second. I'm like, yeah, you know what? If you think you can try to do it, and if I can help in any way to make it successful, let's do it. You know.
Yeah.
Fortunately enough, nobody's come to ask me to do another taco truck, at least.
Right.
But any experience I've had over the 7 years that we've been doing this, I'm definitely more than willing to share with whoever's willing to listen. Really.
Yeah. What's the first time you can remember feeling like you belonged in Batavia?
Well, I was born and raised here, actually. Class of '94 from Batavia High School here. I got 4 other siblings. All of us grew up here in Batavia. And at one point, almost 20 years ago, I did have a restaurant in Geneva. When my wife and I first got married, we lived in Geneva for a little while. Back then, it was Fernando's Mexican Grill.
Okay.
Or Fiesta Grill, sorry. And did a little sit-down restaurant on 38. And I originally was getting ready to sell that location to buy another building to expand. That deal didn't come through. That was when the housing market crashed. Everything crashed. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was meant to be that for me to get out of that when I could.
Yeah.
At that point, I actually went and got my hair license and started doing hair with my wife. My wife's been doing hair since out of high school.
Wow.
So I'm a licensed cosmetologist. And
at a barbershop?
We actually did have a hair salon for a while. We had
own one?
We did, yeah.
So you're just an entrepreneur. That's what you do.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that it gives me that gives me the drive to get out there and do something versus sitting waiting. I got to get out there and make things happen.
Right. You said you were born and raised here. In my mind, at least for my personality, that doesn't necessarily mean you felt like you belonged here. So did you always feel like, okay, I belong here? Or was there a moment that caused you to that gave you certainty about that, or what?
Almost like this is what I know. This is my town. This is me.
Yeah.
It's like you said, everything from even the small business owners that I don't really know, that I didn't grow up with, that come here and ask me freely, knowing that I'm a Batavian. Hey,
what do I need to know?
Yeah, what do I need to know about this place, or how does this work? And there's just the things that I've seen come and go too, kind of still stick in the back of my mind. Okay, how has Batavia evolved? How can we continue to grow?
How would you sum that change up, like the way things have changed in Batavia over the years?
That one's tricky. That one's tricky because sometimes I get we try here in Batavia. We try to grow. We try to expand. We try to bring new businesses in.
Yeah.
And then why is it so many fail? Or why is it so many go to Geneva or St. Charles? And the feedback I get from some of the locals here as well is like, oh, we don't want to be like Geneva. I'm like, yeah, but we're losing a lot of business because we're not want to be like Geneva.
Yeah.
Or it's there's different certain things that happen, and sometimes I stop and think, I'm like, why did we do this, or why did we, who's really benefiting by doing this road closure, or who's who's benefiting by allowing outside vendors to come in or whatever and whatnot. But at the same time, it's one of those things like, okay, if I'm not going to get in there and be involved, then I can't really complain about it. It's so I try to do what I can within here in the community, as much as I can. There
is a tension. I think I don't know how unique it is to Batavia, but it feels somewhat unique to Batavia, where it's like Batavia does have its unique flavor, and you could compare it to Geneva or St. Charles in some ways, and it's like it could feel like a little brother or something, but it's also like this. I would frame it as like non-pretentiousness, a lack of pretentiousness or something that I really like about Batavia, and I'm probably more on that side of that, but person that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But I do feel that tension with most people I talk to about the nature of Batavia and the change that has or hasn't happened in Batavia. And it's interesting to me, like, how do you think about that tension in terms of what is unique to Batavia that you would like to retain versus like what we could do to sort of keep up in some ways?
The community support we get from the people that really drive the push downtown to really grow, definitely got to keep that going, to keep that momentum going. Like the second bridge, sometimes people complain, we need another bridge, and other people are like, well, we don't need another bridge, you don't want to pay for this and that. If we do decide to do something big like that, I think we really got to focus on how it's going to affect Batavia in the long run, in the future.
Yeah.
I think some things I've seen in the past 5-10 years, we've done things that have just been kind of in the moment kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
It's more than just our personal kind of view of what we want Batavia to be like.
Mm-hmm. Like, seems like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, it's not, but is it really?
Yeah,
And who is it really benefiting? It's got to benefit the whole community, not just, because you think it's going to be the best thing.
Right.
Is it truly the best route for the town to grow or benefit?
Yeah. Are there parts of the community you think are not being thought about specifically in those decisions?
Not being thought of. Well, it's like with River Street. They did a great job with River Street, but there's more to Batavia than downtown, than River Street.
Yeah.
And it seems like all of our energy always goes to River Street.
Okay,
It's nice that we're starting to spread out a little bit more, trying, more like Hearth and Hammer around the corner from us here. The businesses are starting to spread out a little bit more.
Yeah. It feels like, yes, it can feel like downtown is River Street. Yeah, that makes sense. And I do like the idea of like downtown being more than that, and the feeling of, some of the days we have, like the Bat Fest and stuff where people are walking. I mean, me and my kids must have walked miles that day. We walked all over the place, starting sort of like downtown River Street and then coming all the way out to Hearth and Hammer and around to Fernando. I think we even came into Fernando's.
Yeah, we got our friends down at the Batavia Popcorn Depot down the street as well.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Beautiful Riverwalk we have down there too. Now,
yes.
The new flag monuments. It was, again, there's so much more to kind of spread out in downtown Batavia.
Yeah, and you always forget, like, I'm dropping my kid off at Taekwondo, and I'm like, where am I going to go? Sometimes I forget the Gammon House is right over there, just across the street. Feels like forever because it's across the street, but it's just across the street.
Yeah.
This episode of Area Code Batavia is brought to you by the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. Hey, Batavia, I've got a quick tip for you today. Have you ever felt like you needed a roadmap for connecting with Batavia businesses and customers? I myself, as a business owner, often know the struggle of trying to get the word out and to build relationships. And I also know that it can be difficult to know what's going on, where, who is around, what sort of things are available to do in Batavia. Well, I know one really good resource for those of us who are in Batavia and looking to be more connected to our community, and that is the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. I'm really appreciative of them for being a sponsor of the podcast. They're not just about doing fancy events, though those are cool too. They've got a ton of resources that help you network and champion everything Batavia. What I love about the Batavia Chamber is that they're a big reason we can even do this podcast. They understand the importance of supporting the voices of our community. They've been really supportive from the beginning and are supporting us right now by sponsoring us. So seriously, whether you're an entrepreneur, a shopper, or you just love Batavia, check them out. It's bataviachamber.org. Find out about memberships, events, all that good stuff.
So can you tell me about the moment you decided to start Fernando's?
So it's been, my daughter's 8 now. So about 10 years ago, I started doing catering parties on the side to generate revenue for an adoption. We adopted our daughter, did about a good solid year and a half of parties every once in a while here and there on the weekends.
Yeah. How long ago was this, you said?
Almost 10 years now, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So our daughter just turned 8, so we started about 2 years before that. Thank you.
That's cool.
So we were able to raise the funds and adopt our daughter, and then from that point, it kind of just snowballed into people calling me again to do graduation parties, birthday parties. Once again, the benefit of me being mobile, a lot of the parties I was doing there were in people's backyards. So even if you had a food truck, it's hard you can't pull a food truck in somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
So I was able to do that for a while, and then of course COVID hit, and then we're like, okay, what do I do now? And actually, one of the local residents here told me about, hey, why don't you try to do a block party kind of thing, so we can still do social distancing, and people can come out, grab food, and try to build up business that way. Again, of course, there's city ordinances against just setting up in the street, telling people to come out. So it's one of those things where I kind of I tend to ask people to host our food truck at your in your driveway. Technically, I'm not on city streets, all technicalities. But here I am being able to set up either in the driveway or even in the garage. Have people pre-order meals through social media. I would get their name, the order. Okay, hey, go out there, cook, have it bagged. The neighbors would come out, say hi, to everybody, and then take their food and go back home. Kind of thing. And if the weather was nice, they would set up lawn chairs and blankets out, like in the park, and eat there. Again, everybody was just dying to get out. Everybody wanted to get back out and start socializing again. With the COVID. So we were able to do that, and then it got to the point where we started doing more and more of those. Throughout the summer specifically, and now, like I said, we grown into 4 trailers in the truck. So
that's pretty gradual. That's like a gradual start. Do you feel like there was a moment? Did you have a moment where you like registered the business and did it because like you're making the step? Was there a big
every year? It's like we just bought another trailer, so like okay, that now I think to myself, it's like what do I got to do? Restarting over again. Not necessarily restarting, but looking. Okay, what direction am I going? How am I going to grow? How am I going to continue to to get this momentum going? I remember when I first started, just I would literally load up a couple folding chairs and a griddle in the back of my pickup truck and a pop-up tent and go set up wherever whether it was the Batavia's outdoor market, did that a few years, and then parties here and there. I remember one year I had one couple that called me up that they wanted to do something, and they wanted to pick my brain about how to get started or whatever, and made a comment about how just keep it basic, simple. Your personality and your product's going to sell itself. You don't need the big $100,000 trailer right away to come out and hope to sell $5 coffees or even $5 tacos. How many of those it's going to take to recoup and redo that.
Right.
And it came down to understanding just a basic lemonade stand. How many kids you see out there with a basic lemonade stand? They're out there. They're plugging away. They're excited. They're motivated and willing to do it. And that's sometimes I tell people, like, sometimes that's what you got to start. Basic lemonade stand.
Right.
Get your product out there, and it'll slowly sell itself.
Sometimes you get to the problem of like, do people want the product? Did you ever have that period where you had like a fear of like, oh, is this going to work?
Even nowadays, right now, I have been doing this for a good 7 years solid now. Especially with the brewery scene. I even still think every once in a while, do I have to revamp my menu? Do I have to redo? We kind of use the same pop-up menu where we offer 4 or 5 items, and it's been consistent over the past few years. And I worry sometimes too. I'm like, are people getting tired of it? Are they? Do I have to switch it up? What can I do to entice people to continue to support and come to us and buy? Especially, like I said, when there's other taco vendors out there. So I always try to make sure my items are unique. Still try to do traditional dishes as well. Right before COVID, I was able to go to Mexico City with my parents, and we actually did a food tour. I scheduled a food tour with a chef that took us around to all the street vendors in downtown Mexico City. We ate a lot in 2 days, but it was it was one of the things, just seeing their drive. It was one of the things where if there's a will, there's a way.
It's interesting, the sort of comparison you're wrestling with. Do I keep things the same or change? Because people like the normal stuff. They like the consistent, traditional things. They also like novelty and progress and change. And it feels like it's aligned with what we were talking about with Batavia, this tension in Batavia, where it's like, do we keep things the same or change? Where you land naturally on that spectrum, do you feel like?
Growth.
You want to, and I get this feeling from you that like every year you want to do something. You want to do something different every year, whether it's change the food or get a new truck or something, right?
So even like, say tonight, I'm going to do my standard, tacos, quesadillas. Tonight I'm throwing in, we're doing a venue, Greenology, that just opened up. We're going to do a pop-up with it, and I'm going to do my elote hot dog. My elote dog.
Whoa.
So we got a jumbo hot dog wrapped in bacon, fried on the griddle on a flat top.
Gosh.
Loaded with Mexican street corn on it. And that's one of the things that's always been in the back of my mind. You know, there's another thing where it's just trying to figure out what I can utilize what I have to be able to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I tell people with people that are just getting started in the food truck industry. We don't need 100 items on the menu. Let's do your 4 basic proteins or whatever, and from there maybe switch up a sauce or switch this up. You know, you can create 10, 12 different items with just your 3 main, you know, proteins. So and I always try to stick to that as well. So, you know, I always have a elote. You know, okay, so today I'm bringing in a hot dog. You know, so but then I have my short rib tacos today, brisket. Developed a big following of our brisket tacos or brisket nacho lotes. A little changes here and there, but hopefully to be better.
How did you expect the business to pan out when you were starting it?
When I first started, I was, again, just looking at it as a little extra money on the side. Always had like a little side hustle. Because at this point, my wife and I still had the hair salon, so we was doing hair. And just, you know, a little side hustle, and that kind of gets on growing and growing. Got to the point where I bought 2 trailers, and then my older siblings, they had their fairly full-time jobs, but I had to bring them back in to help me out on the weekends to be able to accommodate parties.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but so my parents used to own El Taco Grande.
Oh, nice.
So I grew up, you know, in the restaurant industry. So got out of it for a while, and then here I am getting pulled back into it. So.
Got it. They don't own it anymore?
No.
Okay, got it.
So...
Did you start at El Taco Grande? Is that kind of where you learned it?
Oh, yeah. I kind of learned the basics from there from my dad. And then from there kind of evolved a little bit too. I said now doing, like I said, the smoked pork tacos, smoked brisket tacos. Like I said, I got short ribs on the smoker right now going for tonight.
Nice.
So trying to get away from the traditional pastor, carne asada, lengua. I'm like, we can do it all, but there's other places that do that, you know. So
yes.
I try to, you know, keep that variety, keep that change.
That's cool. Was there a moment where you sort of questioned whether you should be in the business and said, maybe I don't want to do this?
I want to say almost like every day. It's like, what? No, it's...
it's either every day or never.
It's either every day or not. But no, but it's almost like an aha moment, kind of like, you know, why am I doing this? I'm like, you know what? And it makes me, you know, take that moment in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee sometimes. What are we doing today? Here I am running, trying to accommodate, you know, different appointments, still cook.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like, it keeps evolving. Before it was just me and my family. Now it's me and my family, my brothers, me and my family, my brothers, my staff now. You know, I've got a team of 12 that rely on me as well.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, again, all of our loyal customers, you know.
Yeah.
They've over the years have supported us and seen what we've accomplished. And you know, every once in a while they'll ask me, "Hey, when's the new special? When you know, what are you gonna come up with next?" So it's that drive every day. I'm like, you know, I reflect a little bit every morning.
Yeah.
On what we've accomplished, and I said my wife supported me the whole time, and still supports it. And how do we continue to grow and still find that balance of business and life, and family, you know.
I am so fascinated talking to you about this because it does feel like you have this personality that I kind of relate to, which is like, what's next? You know, you're always thinking about what's next, which sort of implies change. You know, like we've talked about, we're talking about this a little bit where, and I'm wondering, like, because this podcast is about belonging in Batavia, is it harder for you? Like, how do you, I think the way I was sort of thinking about this before I came in today was like, as a food truck, without necessarily like an always consistent place, you're serving a lot of different places. That can be hard to feel like, okay, I got a stake in this place. Now you do have this place, so that's good. But like the food truck portion of it means you're moving around a lot, right? You're transitory. So that can make belonging hard. But then also there's this added element of like every year you're doing something new. Every day you're going, why am I doing this again? And you're asking those questions sort of afresh. What's the consistent piece of belonging that you're feeling every day? And how do you engender that feeling of belonging in yourself that is consistent and makes you feel like, okay, I belong here, even though everything's changing all the time?
Yep. You know, it's, again, the local residents, even residents that have moved in here, are like, oh, yeah, you know, I'm a loyal Batavia resident. And I'm like, oh, when'd you move here? Like, oh, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm 47, 48 now. And I'm like, I got a little more time than you do.
Yes, you got me beat.
Yeah.
I've been here 8 years,
Okay.
so
but
or
they
5
still,
years
but
actually.
they still come not necessarily to seek me specifically, but to seek what Batavia is.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can give back a little bit. Like this is what what I know of Batavia, how I see it, and how it grew. And then with the food trucks in general, just when I'm getting calls from the city of Batavia, hey, can you cater an event for the employee holiday party, or the Batavia Park District, hey, can you count on you to do this event, or the Flag Monument event, can you come down and
Yes.
even knowing that it may not be a big profitable event for me,
Yes.
but here I am doing what I can for my town.
I'm having a light bulb moment because I've got a home in Batavia
Mm-hmm.
where I stay. In some ways that hinders my feeling of belonging in Batavia because I stay home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times the business can be the same way, where if you have a place, you stay there and you're there. But the thing about Fernando's is you go to a thing, it's likely Fernando's is going to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I go to a Batavia thing. We were at like the Christmas event.
Yeah, we were down there.
You were there.
Mm-hmm.
We were at some other thing. You were there. It's like Fernando's is a mainstay wherever you go, which a lot of businesses can't do. Like a lot of restaurants can't do. And so that feeling of like, whether or not you feel like you belong, I feel like you belong in Batavia because I've seen you everywhere, and it would be
thanks.
weird if you stopped showing up,
And then that's, again, like I said, it's definitely been a blessing that I've been able to go ahead and still accommodate the smaller events here, again, like I said, whether I'm going to be profitable or not.
Yeah.
And here I am becoming a regular thing in downtown Batavia.
Yes.
Which, excites me. So I said, sometimes I can't always be there. I can always, again, benefit having the 4 different teams. I can always send hopefully somebody there to be able to accommodate. So
Yes.
between, like I said, the downtown events, the local breweries, Sturdy Shelter, last year was a big help and big push on getting me out there, a little bit more mobile here in town as well. Now Grainology, coming in here.
Yeah.
We do the indoor market with them now every Saturday morning as well.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah. Cool.
So I think, it's a win-win because it's like my slow season. They can benefit by having me in there, and, it's a win-win.
What is it about your business, since you've been here in Batavia for a really long time, what is it about this business that would only work in Batavia, in your mind?
I think because, again, being born and raised here, knowing the community, getting involved, or whether when I say get involved, at least just speaking with people, getting out there, introducing myself. Hey, where are you from? I had another couple came in the other day, same thing. They just moved here from Colorado, and hey, how's Batavia? What do we do this? And let me tell you about it. This is this is my town. Let me tell you, this is a great little town to be in, and it's more the people.
Yeah.
Whether it's tacos or I was selling shoes, even being out there in the public, being out there and communicating with the community.
Do you?
I think one of the key things that has helped me grow and develop downtown here.
How often are you venturing outside of Batavia into like Geneva or other neighboring locations?
A lot.
A lot?
A lot.
And what's the difference?
The difference for me, I guess personally, when I leave town, it's work.
Huh.
When
Interesting.
When I'm here in town, I'm just here in town. Doing my thing.
Yeah. Is that because you know it better? You're more at home here? What is the difference?
Yeah. It's just here in town, I'm comfortable with everybody here. Whether they're hiring me for an event, or if I'm just doing a pop up, somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable here. This is like my backyard.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you're at home. I'm my backyard here.
That's right. Yeah.
No matter what part of town I'm in.
Yeah.
Now when I'm going outside of town, I'm going in somebody else's backyard.
Okay.
I've got to up my game a little bit. I got to make sure, if I want that business to grow or repeat business from that Geneva, St. Charles, Glendale Heights, Arlington Heights, Hoffman Estates, it becomes work.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes.
We're here. I can.
It doesn't come as second nature as it would. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. What has been your biggest struggle in doing this work?
Besides the 12 inches of snow and 30 below zero weather we've had in the past couple weeks, there's always something, man. There's always something. Whether there was the restrictions of COVID.
Yep.
Everybody talks about the price gouging. When ground beef shot up to $6 a pound. Shortages, things like that. But it's almost. I've learned that it's almost takes more energy out of me to be worried and stressed about it.
Okay.
Versus just that's not an option. What can we do then?
Okay, yeah.
We still got to move forward. We still got to live. We still got to get out there. We still got to eat,
You're just pivoting, adapting all the time. Yeah. Yep. That's good. What keeps you up at night?
If you ask my wife, she'll tell you nothing. She knows once I put my head on that pillow, I'm out, so. No, again, it's one of those things I think, and I try to make her understand that too. At the end of the night, the day's done, whatever's there's nothing I can do about it. I got to rest up and tackle it in the morning.
And you're asking that question when you wake up. You're asking, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, what do we got to do?
And what's next?
Yep, what's next?
Interesting. To you, what does it mean, like fundamentally, to belong in Batavia?
To belong in Batavia, just wherever you're at, knowing that this is you. This is your yard, your sidewalk, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to shovel the sidewalk because it's not my job, it's the city job. I'm like, but you know what? I think about, what if it was my wife and kid that wanted to walk down the sidewalk? I want to make sure it's clear and safe for them. Man,
you got me right in the heart with that one. I didn't do it today because I have to do this.
No,
but
I know.
It's a time thing.
No, it doesn't. Yes, definitely time thing. But it's one of those things like, do it not just for yourself, but for the community.
Yeah.
I think one thing that always is in the back of my mind, Mayor Schelke. Been mayor here for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every once in a while, you drive down the street, you see him out there picking weeds at somebody, by the fire hydrant or even downtown Riverwalk. He cares about the community. This is his town. This is his backyard.
Yeah.
I think that's something we can learn from him. Is like, we got to put the effort into making this.
Yeah.
And to be able to invite people to come, want to be in Batavia.
Right.
It
sounds like there's an ownership that you take. And that is, so I'm a transplant, of course. I come from Southeast Alabama by way of Louisville, Kentucky, by way of Wheaton.
Okay, there you go.
So I've been living here for 5 years, and maybe because of that, but maybe just because of my personality, I struggle to feel ownership over the place, right? And that is a struggle I think a lot of people feel, like where you walk in and you're, what's the word? One of the reasons I will say this, one of the reasons we chose Batavia and we like Batavia is that it's not like a tourist suburb. So like, it doesn't feel like people go to other places all the time. It feels like people are happy to be in this town.
Yeah.
And I've, living in Wheaton, looking at other suburbs, it feels like there's a lot of traveling back and forth between wherever. It's sort of like I live in Chicagoland versus I live in Batavia.
Yeah.
But when you do that, like there's a lack of ownership of anything, right? And so, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like the need to remember that because just by virtue of being here, you're a part of it. But do you think you need to be here a certain amount of time to feel that ownership?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, you're in 5 years. I said, by you doing this, by you reaching out to other business owners, other local residents about doing this, you're building that relationship. You're building that ownership. This is your town now.
Yeah.
You want it to succeed. You want to grow in it. Batavia's got to grow with you.
Honestly, it was good that I had this conversation with Fernando when I did, a week before we launched this podcast. I was kind of freaking out, feeling a little insecure, having some of the same feelings I have when I'm typically walking into a bar or a coffee shop, which is this feeling of surely no one wants to talk to me. I'm just a guy who moved here a few years ago. I haven't been here forever. What do I know about this town? And do I really have the right to call myself a Batavian, much less speak for Batavia itself? But Fernando's right. This podcast of my own is a small way of taking ownership where I am. And I wonder what you could do to do the same. Yes, taking ownership is scary. You're making yourself vulnerable to criticism, to getting things wrong, to making a change that others might not want. But if we can all manage to share that ownership, to spread it around and encourage others to lean in too, then maybe we'll have a town that's growing along with us. Thanks for listening to Area Code Batavia. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Winter can be a hard time for local businesses, so make sure you're supporting local businesses when you can. If you enjoy this podcast, why not subscribe to our newsletter? Just click the link in the show notes and put in your email address. Not only will we let you know whenever there's a new episode of Area Code Batavia available, but each issue also brings you 5 concrete ways to experience a deeper sense of belonging in the community of Batavia, Illinois. Most importantly, if you know someone who would love to hear this podcast, please share it with them. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community and help more people feel like they belong in Batavia, Illinois. Area Code Batavia is produced by Area Code Audio. It's hosted and produced by me, Richard Clark, with additional production help from Jennifer Clark.